conversation, that this is not just something that Edward and I have been suffering through, but we all need this conversation. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm going to introduce myself and then introduce you, and we'll talk a little bit about how this got started. So my name is Asetu Shango. I was born and raised in Aurora, Colorado. My legal name is not Asetu Shango. That was something that I changed when I spent about 2 months in West Africa in Mali.
Hello everybody. My name is Edward Benson. My original name is Nana Kwesi Benson. I was given the name Edward because I had to go to school in Accra, Ghana. So it stuck with me, but it's all cool. I have been in the United States for the past, I would say, 20 years, in Colorado for the past 15 years. I'm one of the original founders of Afrique Mall. I think I see a lot of faces here who came through there. This started with the Afrique Mall vision. The vision that was calling for us to bring Africa to America, to our people, our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. So this conversation started there. We did one event, it was very great, and we kind of sunsetted. But with the recent movie that came out, Black Panther, we felt that there were a lot of connections and tones and statements in there that we need to pick this back up and then have a conversation moving forward. So we birthed Africanda. Africanda is a realm in space, just like the way we had Wakanda in the Black Panther movie. So the goal here is to keep talking through the maths that is yet to come, and then one way or the other find how we can make Africanda a reality in our lifetime. Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate all of you, and I'm excited we are doing this.
So yeah, to open the discussion, Edward and I have been in conversation about this since Afrique Mall was around last fall. And then of course that didn't survive. So that is, for those of you who don't know, Afrique Mall was the first and only African mall in America. It was all African owned, African run, African store owners, and it didn't survive. I think it went about 8 months. But during that time, we were seeing a lot of these clashes come up with Africans and African Americans. I had just recently come back from my trip to West Africa and had very much got a reality check around what Africa is not. And I actually wrote a poem by that title, just in terms of heritage. So we have been dialoguing about this a lot. So basically, in order to kind of run these until we start having conversations around what y'all are wanting from this, we're just gonna kind of introduce like some pieces of the conversations that we've had from our different perspectives and our different backgrounds, and then open it up to y'all to kind of reflect on that and introduce your ideas into the space.
So I will start off by going through a customary rite. In the Akan language, in Accra, in Ghana, we have a word that says Mepamucho. Mepamucho means we are sorry. Now, why do I say that? I'm apologizing on behalf of my fellow brothers and sisters in Africa. Why do I need to apologize? I know among each one of us, one way or the other, we have tried something to try and unite all Africans and African Americans and blacks in the diaspora. But the continent not come for you. We are sorry that we've left you out there. We are sorry for not being able to come to you to teach you and show you the real African culture. So you just don't pick just whatever you think is cool and run with it. Just like the way the festival was picked up out of California and African Americans celebrate it every year. A lot of people have to ask the question, why don't Africans join in that festival? The festival, but if anybody remembers. It's a celebration.
Juneteenth?
No.
Kwanzaa?
Kwanzaa, yes. Yeah, Kwanzaa. So one time somebody asked me, why don't Africans really participate in that? I said it's a cool thing, but it doesn't have a meaning to us. And eventually we can explain that. So I apologize on behalf of the African continent to say that we are sorry we've not come around, but now it is time for us to talk. Let's talk and then find ways to move forward. So I'll turn around and hand it over to my partner here, and she can give hers.
Right, so when he said that, we apologize for Africans not coming back for African Americans. So my journey with grasping for heritage, grasping for ancestry, so many African Americans experience, was really idealizing the continent of Africa. I think I had a peripheral knowledge that that wasn't the full picture, and was trying in my best way to grapple with that, but not really doing a full job because it felt like a stripping of a homeland that I hadn't yet experienced. And then when I went and experienced it, it was like, oh, here is the full picture. And in most places, I don't fit. But the other part of that was the recognition. So one of the real turning points for me, I was actually in Guatemala and I met this South African. And she was telling me, you know, I was kind of trying to tell her, this was during Charleston, there was a lot of shootings happening back here in America, and I was trying to tell her about the oppression that we face and how heavy it is. And I used the example of people in Detroit having their water supply cut off. And she said, most people in my country don't have clean water to begin with. And that really hit me. So I want to honor that that slavery was its own tragic thing, and colonization was its own tragic thing. And we have both, on both sides of the Atlantic, just been trying to survive. So like, gratitude for you for reaching out to us, but also like, there must be a reach back, or else, you know, if there's an imbalance, then we can't really, either one of us can't help each other. So that's sort of our dialogue around that. Anybody who would like to speak, please lead with your name, your country of origin, and yeah, and then your comment. So it's over to y'all.
Well, I'll speak. So I met Edward at the African Mall, going there. I was gonna open a store up in there, but more so because I wanted to be around the culture, I wanted to be around my people. I wanted to learn more, I wanted to know more. There's a lot of division, obviously, because as I was telling Edward, the language barrier is one of it. I felt like it was like super huge and super important. All the Hispanics, all the Asians, they have a piece of them when they come here. So I feel that's like part of our division is the language. So we were speaking yesterday on the phone. He was saying to me that it's a high possibility that we start getting teachers over here to come here and start teaching the basic language of Africans. So to me, that's huge. I just feel like the division in general is from the African American culture here in the States, and how things are so divided just amongst us here in the States. And how can we join together when we, as African Americans here, are so divided here? So I say this to say, we have to go inner.
Right.
And in order to do that, I have to find myself through you.
Right.
Because you guys are the truth. So that's why I'm here. I really want to dig deep into this. There's just so much more to learn. And that's why I'm here. I want to participate. I want to play my position any way I can. And I'm here for you guys.
And what's your name?
Barack.
And where are you from?
Denver, Colorado.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, brother. So I just want to touch a little bit on what he said. We had a long conversation, and by what he's saying that he wants to find himself through. So obviously, this conversation, we are taking it out of the movie Black Panther. So it can connect the dots and make this conversation very easy, since all of us pretty much have seen the movie. But at the end of the movie, when T'Challa said, came to California to open the Wakanda Art Center, there was a purpose for that. Of course, obviously the movie did not tell it, What do I take out of it? That is a conversation I want to put on the table right now. What do I take out of it? What I take out of it is that, like I told you, we need to have an outreach center in the Black community. An outreach center where we have Africans from Africa coming to these outreach centers to teach for free an African language. We can pick one from every continent, every corner of the African continent to teach the language. And it's free. Every African American should be able to just go there and learn the language. Nothing to pay for. And hopefully, Africana, which is going to be a non-profit, will be in a position to be able to fund these programs. It is very necessary. Having a bunch of those in most of the African American communities across the United States. So that is what we mentioned about what we are fishing. Of course, it's still a vision. Hopefully we can reach it. But I just want to put that out. Any other comment from anybody?
And this is free flow, so like, I'm curious to hear, am I the only one who has been grasping onto the continent of Africa kind of blindly, searching for pieces of myself? Oh, okay, so people are here, work. Mama, go.
So I,
Like, leave with your name, your country board.
my name is Wendy, and I was born in the United States.
What?
And so I'm a little older than some of y'all. And so I wanted to like belong somewhere, because belonging is extremely important. And so I was very much in a relationship with a storyteller that we had, Opalaka Pugh. And she had gone to school in Ghana. And so I lived through her vision of what the continent was. I was like, oh, when I get there, you know, like my hips are gonna work, my stomach is gonna work, everything's gonna be beautiful about me. I'm gonna see myself. And then when I got there, I went to Uganda, and I got to Kenya. And what I realized is every country is different.
Right.
There is no monolithic Africa continent. Nigerians talk trash about Kenyans and people, you know, like that. I found that out. I found out that there was more hair straightening opportunities than I'd ever seen, or fake hair. Like, I was just in shock. And that Americans are thought to, African Americans have a particular stigma to them. The stigma of like we're either in sports or entertainment. There is not like a connection to us. There's a connection to being like a capitalist. There's a connection to being successful, like America. Like there's a desire. So for me, it was like we all got screwed.
Yes.
It occurred to me that we all got screwed, and what Wakanda was like was what happens if we weren't colonized?
Right.
What would have happened to us if we weren't colonized? But what do we do now? Right? Like, what is it? So this conversation, I was willing to come and be a part of because it's time. It's just time. Whatever story I have about you, whatever story you have about me, it's time for us to like get it out and go on forward, because there is a absolute strategic way that we're being made separate.
Right.
And so we like kind of like go beyond that. Ain't no telling. The fact that that only lasted, the Africa Mall lasted for 8 months, curious, right? Like I'm real curious what happened. Because it's kind of like, what would have happened if that unity would have been existing?
Right. Say that.
What would have happened if that unity would have
which is inside the central region of Ghana, and that region is where slavery actually started. When the British came to Ghana, that is where the ship docked. So most of the slave castles in Ghana are situated in that region, and as part of your orientation, you go to tour the slave castles and see the dungeons, and very heartbreaking experience. But anyway, there's a huge plaque in the slave castle that has an apology message from the chiefs that actually facilitated slavery during that time. So initially, when the British came, it was Christianity in the beginning, right? The way you already worship it is not the best, and let's introduce you to a better way of
Yes.
serving God and all that. And then suddenly the economic benefits of slavery became more apparent. So although the Christians came first, they didn't come alone. There were also some bad people who came along with the Christians to come for their own economic benefits. So although slavery started out with capturing people and sending them away, it got to a point where the chiefs actually became the facilitators of slavery, where they were being compensated with mirrors,
Gun.
whiskey, gunpowder, and things like that. So although I don't know, it's kind of
No, I
hard
can't-
to
No, I can expand on what I know where you're going, but
yeah,
finish.
it's kind of hard to
Finish.
assume that even if people had escaped, if slaves had escaped from the United States and gone back, that they could have changed everything, because slavery got to a point where people were not being captured. It was the prisoners who were being taken away. Then the chiefs were getting greedy, and now they were capturing their own people and selling them off. So I don't know, it would have been a battle of, this is what is happening in America. Maybe we can make something different, but I don't know if where it reached, the chiefs could have just kind of given up, because at that point it had become very profitable for both the chiefs and also the colonizers. So yeah, I just wanted
But I like how, like, to that point, back in the day, the tribe was more connected. So there's history of tribes killing off the chief and overthrowing the chief because the chief was not doing what was right. So if the chief isn't listening, we could easily have worked in the crowd and rounded each other up and then took that on that way. But because there was so much miscommunication about what was actually happening, nobody actually knew. There was no way they could say, you know what, these people are like, they're selling us out, they're throwing the village away, like we need to get them out. They just were like caught off guard. It just kind of happened to them. So.
And to add on to it, okay, go ahead.
So there's a lot that goes on with that, right? Like, this is a romancing of history and hoping that it would have been pie in the sky. So I don't know, and so that has to be taken into consideration as well, that yes, they were Africans that were their original Africans that weren't brought over here, but we have to understand they were people too, right? They were good, they were bad, they were middle of the road, they were horrible, and they liked things that capitalism provided, and slavery is basically a tool of capitalism to coax people over to make the chiefs like that. But something that we're forgetting also are the forces that put all that into motion, right? How easily would they have let a ship leave the coast here to get all the way back over there and then to run and tell that message? So not only were the chiefs being bought off with goods, there was also some threatening going on too. So either you provide 100 people or we're gonna pick 100 people and we're gonna pick those closest to you. So there's that fear aspect that was thrown into the mix with greed as well. So, I mean, as it said, and I'll echo it again, it was a fucked up situation all the way around for everybody. So I guess it does good to have a good understanding of that to a point, and not to, I don't feel that it would be too beneficial to spend too much energy there without building like what's our next steps. How do we create to going forward?
Can I piggyback on that?
Sorry, just 1 second. So I would want to, sorry.
Ourselves as Borinquen. Borinquen was the original indigenous Indians that lived on the island of Puerto Rico. And we had already had a race of people that are derived from Africans that already navigated the oceans and had found trade and embargo with the indigenous Borinquen Indians. And then when the mixing of those two happened, we became a mixture of people on the island already. And then as we involved other into the slave trade, as colonization went everywhere. It didn't just go from here to here. It went everywhere, and it broke off. So with Afro-Cubano and Afro-Boricana, we have a history of knowing where we kind of already had a ties to Africa, because we already had language, we already had history, we already had religion. One of the religions that is practiced heavily still in Puerto Rico is Santeria. Santeria is derivative of African religion, and it mixes with the Christianity, the Catholic religion, but we keep it strong in the aspect of it's ours, and we have it, and we haven't let it go, and we've never let it change, even in the mixing of the cultural and what Spain brought to Puerto Rico. And when the Spanish came over, they changed our name yet again when we mixed one more time and became Boricua. And that Boricua also is a cultural snatching of our heritage, where we came from. Some of us have decided, no, we're Spanish, and we're just gonna drop all the African, we're gonna drop all of the boarding king off, and we're gonna try to make it more to the colonizers' effect of to better the race, to lighten our skin, to become a little bit like the master, and to drop all of that and just try to assimilate to something else. And so what he said, as far as romancing of the history, we just, not everybody has that experience. And so the more that we as Black Americans dig into ourselves and understanding, you know, you may not have that experience of the continent, you may not have that experience of just Christianity, you may have another experience, and we have to just start to talk about those histories and talk about them and share them, because it's imperative that all of us know somewhat of maybe where we came from. And if you know where you came from a little bit more, it's imperative that you keep teaching your children, because it brings that stronger. I teach my children San Maria, although we still go to church, because I don't want them to lose that deepness of the fact that we still have ties to a bridge to our original selves, and the fact that, you know, even still, the island of Puerto Rico was a little bit different because we already had a bridge. And like some people in America, Africans already came here. They already settled in Mexico. They already had settled in parts of the United States and had already had Black children with the indigenous Indians that were already here. So not everybody not everybody had the effects of slavery, but it affected everywhere. The islands here, South America, everywhere. And I think we all should just start touching in on, you know, where these cultural aspects may be hitting us the hardest, right, and where we can find it again.
So, well, before even slavery started, the Arabs started it. Arabs enslaved Africa for 1,400 years. And the slavery over there, if you become my slave, I'm not beating you up. You understand that you're my subject forever and ever. Your children and your great-grandchildren are going to be serving me, but then I'm not going to take your child from you. You can have your children, you have your own home. Every morning you get up, you go work on my farm. I don't pay you, but you eat good food, you eat what I eat. You know, that was slavery on the continent. So everybody was doing it. It was a cool thing, you know, whatever, you know. I don't want to use the word cool for it, like, but that was, yeah, you know, but it was a way of life, basically. That's how they were. But when the Europeans went there, they decided to join in, and then they had an ulterior motive. So they would take them, bring them over here, and they would do whatever they want to do, what will not happen. You know, like, sometimes you ask, do Africans really know about slavery? Can you answer that for us?
Not all the time.
But can you give us your response to my question? Do Africans in Africa know the details of slavery? What happened?
I don't think in its entirety.
No, exactly.
Even today.
Yeah, it is true. When I finished high school in Ghana before I came here. And to the extent of slavery, all I knew before I came here and started college in HBC was that some white folks came to the African shores, they talked to our ancestors, we gave them the people, they took some by force, they put them on a boat, put them in shackles, packed them like sardines, and then off onto the sea they went. And that's where the curtain closes for us.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow.
I had to come here to learn about what happened on the other side of the sea. So we have to break this separation. We have to break it. We need African Americans to go there and teach them that. It is very imperative that happens.
But I think it works both ways. I don't think Americans know what goes on in Africa.
We'll get there.
Right, we either
You're right.
we either have the bleak like donation commercials,
Yeah.
or we have Mother Africa, Kente cloth. Do you know what I mean? Like
Right.
the real human experience, we aren't connected with either.
No.
And which is what we found out when you and I started talking.
Right. And we learned a lot from each other when we started. Like I was telling her things like, really? And she would tell me stuff like, wow.
Never thought of it.
And I never thought about it. So we are trying to bridge the gap. That is our purpose here.
You good.
That's our purpose here. I like the fact that we talk about the history so we can answer some few questions. Yes, some Africans were part of the trade. It was commerce, good money for them. But this lady that I mentioned from Nigeria, once she found out that this was happening to our people in the diaspora, she decided to stop it. She stopped making every penny out of the business. She decided to fight against it. And what did the British do to her? They exiled her from Nigeria. So a lot of Africans stood up once they found out. And how did she even find out? Because it was another Caucasian who mentioned it to her. So if that guy had not been foolish enough to mention it to her, she still would have been in the hindsight. So these are little truths that we need to understand. Any other?
I have a question. So one of the things that like is really kind of not helping the continent is the level of corruption in the government. So like for me, like what I learned about in Nigeria, like they have like oil reserves that are very, very extensive. And they don't seem to always have everyone's best interest at heart on how to take care of stuff. So what is your perspective on that particular aspect and the impact that's having on the people?
I'm happy you brought it up, but that's something that we should tailor in the future as we keep discussing. Corruption is a problem for everybody. Now, how is it strong in the African community? It has to do with the mindset. The African mindset has been changed from being the African that is supposed to be, and is now chasing after what the Caucasians have created as development. So we can talk about that as we go down the line.
Thank you.
Any other comment?
I just wanted to speak to her point. I'm sorry, did you say your name is Desiree?
Yes.
Okay. Because you had mentioned that African Americans here, that we need to learn our own history because we do have gems. And I've been doing that this year. So I read an awesome book called Jambalaya. It's a spiritual rituals for the soul. And as I was reading it, this woman who grew up in New Orleans, she was talking about all these different things that we Americans, African Americans, do that are actually very much rooted in our African spirituality. We just don't know and we don't connect the two. Like one of the ones that stood out to me the most, because I grew up in the hood, everybody's always pouring it out for the homies. Like, let's pour it out for the homies. Not knowing that that is something that our African social system do as an honoring to our ancestors. Yeah, so I think for African Americans, it's been most important to myself. I felt more connected to the continent when I started to study my own history. And when I started to figure out the gems that our ancestors left behind, because they're really subtle. And if you don't know, you think it's just, oh, that's just ghetto black people stuff. But really, it's something that's left behind very, very much that was here a long time ago that we just don't know. And it's I have a really thing about our music because we continue to allow like everybody to just do our music and make our music, but we don't understand that our music is rooted in spirituality. It's what we did to pay homage. It wasn't just something we did to party and turn up and have a good time. It had a meaning behind it. And we really need to start looking at ourselves and really being proud of what we have here because a lot of it comes out of our ancestors.